Principles Show daily podcast by and for you.
You know, we always talk about how complex the brain is, right?
Oh, yeah.
Well, there's this new study from China that's starting to
Wow.
actually map out the genetic blueprint for how all the connections form in our brains. It's wild. Trillions of connections.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And it's not even the whole brain. They're specifically looking at
Oh, really?
the cortex, which is,
Right.
the outer layer, the part that, makes us human.
Yeah.
So we're doing a deep dive on this.
Okay.
And we're looking at an article from a BRICS website
Okay.
that kind of unpacks this research.
Yeah.
And the research itself was published in the Journal of Neuroscience.
Oh, wow.
So this is
Serious stuff.
pretty serious science, but we'll make sure it makes sense
Like a crate.
for everyone, even if you haven't been studying neurobiology.
Yeah.
So are you ready to explore how our genes actually shape how our brains are wired?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm fascinated by this.
Because that's what we're doing today. But before we get into it, I have to ask,
Yeah.
how is it even possible to create a genetic blueprint
Right?
for something as complex as the human brain? It just blows my mind.
It really is remarkable. You know what they found? This study
Yeah.
was from the Institute of Automation at the Chinese Academy of Sciences.
Oh, wow.
It's a pretty,
Yeah, reputable.
reputable place. Yeah. And what they found is that our genes don't actually code for every single connection
Oh, interesting.
in our brain. So they don't say this gene goes to this neuron and that one.
Right.
It's not like that.
Okay.
Instead, what they do is they lay out a kind of framework, a network of what they call white matter tracks.
Okay.
These are like highways for information to travel
Oh, okay.
between different parts of the brain.
So the highways are kind of like the main roads in a city.
Yeah.
And then all the little connections are like
Exactly.
the side streets and the alleyways.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay. That makes sense.
So the genes determine those major roadways,
Oh, okay.
those white matter tracks, but the specific connections between, neurons,
Right.
those can vary
So it's like
within that structure.
the buildings can be arranged in different ways, even though
Yeah.
the main roads are all the same.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it.
Okay, I like that analogy.
Yeah.
But there's more to this blueprint than just those highways, right?
All right.
I was reading about something called topological axes.
Yes. So they discovered these three axes.
Yeah.
Dorsal ventral, anterior posterior, and medial lateral.
It sounds complicated.
They sound complicated, but they're essentially just directional guides
Okay.
for how different areas of the brain are organized.
Okay, so break it down for me.
Okay.
What do these axes actually mean?
All right. So let's start with the dorsal ventral axis,
Okay.
which is basically top to bottom.
Okay.
So imagine your brain like a skyscraper,
Right.
and the lower floors,
Uh-huh.
the ventral part, they handle those more basic functions like breathing and heart rate.
Oh, okay.
As you go up, though,
Yeah.
the dorsal part, you
Mhm.
get to that higher level thinking,
Okay.
decision making, all the good stuff.
So, the penthouse suite is composing symphonies and
Yeah.
writing screenplays.
Exactly.
Okay.
So then there's the anterior posterior axis,
Okay.
which goes front to back.
Front to back.
A
Okay.
front part.
Yeah.
The anterior part
Mhm.
is all about planning and action.
Okay.
While the back part, the posterior,
Yeah.
is where you process that sensory information.
So the front of my brain is deciding to get coffee.
Yeah.
And the back of my brain
Those are
is
processing, yeah.
tasting it and smelling it.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then finally, we have the medial lateral axis,
Medial lateral. Okay.
which runs from the middle to the sides of your brain,
Uh-huh.
connecting the two hemispheres.
Right.
It's all about communication
Hmm.
between the two sides.
So if I'm trying to remember a song lyric, my two hemispheres are
They're chatting.
talking back and forth.
Exactly.
Ah, okay.
And what's really cool is that these three axes work together
Yeah.
to create an overall pattern
Uh-huh.
called the global connectivity topology of the brain.
Okay, hold on. Global connectivity
Just a
topology.
mouthful.
I need you to unpack that.
Okay, so imagine taking those three axes that we talked about,
Yeah.
top to bottom, front to back, middle to sides,
Mm-hmm.
and seeing how they all intersect
Yeah.
to create a 3D map of your brain.
Oh. Okay.
That's your global connectivity topology.
So it's like a 3D roadmap
Exactly.
of all the connections in the brain.
And here's the amazing thing.
What's that?
That roadmap isn't random.
Oh, really?
It mirrors the patterns of gene expression in the brain.
Wait, so you're saying that the way our genes are expressed actually shapes the wiring of our brains?
It suggests that...
That seems like a big leap.
It is. It's huge.
Wow.
It suggests that genes are influencing this complex wiring through a set of relatively simple rules,
Oh, wow.
which is pretty mind-blowing
Yeah, that is mind-blowing.
when you think about it.
So our genes are kind of like the architects. They're making the blueprints,
Yeah.
but then they're leaving room for the neurons to make their own connections.
Exactly. This invisible blueprint shapes that network of connections that make each of us unique.
It's so fascinating.
It is.
But I have to ask,
Yeah.
what does it actually mean for us?
That's a great question.
Does knowing this blueprint actually change anything?
Well, that's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
It opens up all these possibilities in medicine, technology, and even just like,
Yeah.
understanding what it means to be human.
Wow.
But we'll dive into all that after a quick break.
Okay, so we've got this invisible blueprint that's guiding the way our brains are wired.
Yeah.
But how does that translate into, like,
Right.
real world stuff?
Yeah.
What can we actually do with this knowledge?
Well, imagine a world where
yeah.
treatments for brain disorders are tailored to your unique brain wiring.
Oh, wow.
That's the promise of personalized medicine.
Okay.
And this research takes us a big step closer to making that a reality.
So instead of like, a one-size-fits-all approach,
Right.
we could be looking at treatments specifically designed for, like,
Exactly.
my brain and how it's connected.
Yeah, for your specific brain.
That's incredible.
It is.
So, like, for people facing some serious challenges, like
Yeah.
Alzheimer's, Parkinson's.
Think about conditions like that.
Yeah.
Depression. Even understanding those specific wiring patterns
Yeah.
could allow us to develop more targeted therapies,
Okay.
leading to better outcomes for patients.
Wow. So we're talking about, like,
Yeah,
potentially life-changing applications here.
absolutely.
What about other areas where this knowledge could be applied?
Well, this research could revolutionize the field of brain-computer interfaces.
Oh, you mean like
BCI.
those devices that allow people with paralysis to control prosthetic limbs with their thoughts?
You get it. Wow. The effectiveness of those devices depends on a really deep understanding of how the brain is wired.
Right.
This research could lead to BCIs that are far more precise,
Okay.
more responsive,
Yeah.
allowing for
Yeah.
more complex and nuanced control.
So it's like we're getting closer to a
Yeah.
future where technology can seamlessly integrate with our brains.
Absolutely. It's amazing to think about.
But are there other areas where this knowledge could have a big impact?
Absolutely. Diagnosis and neurosurgery are two more fields
Okay.
that stand to benefit immensely.
So if we can identify
Yeah.
the subtle wiring differences associated with neurological disorders,
Right. Exactly.
we could diagnose things like autism,
Yeah. Autism,
schizophrenia much earlier.
much earlier. Yeah.
Wow.
Which could lead to earlier interventions and better outcomes.
That's huge, especially for conditions that are
Yeah.
often really hard to diagnose
Early on.
early on. What about neurosurgery? How would this impact that?
Imagine a surgeon preparing to remove a brain tumor.
Okay.
Knowing the precise location of critical pathways and connections
Yeah.
could make surgery safer,
Right.
more effective,
So it's like the difference between
Yeah.
preserving crucial functions and
and risking long-term damage.
getting damage.
Exactly.
It's incredible to think about how much this could impact
Yeah.
so many different areas.
Yeah.
But it also seems like this knowledge could be used in ways that are
Right.
maybe not so beneficial.
Absolutely.
What about the ethical considerations of, like,
Yeah, that's a crucial point.
being able to map out and potentially manipulate
As
a
human,
brain?
the ethical considerations here are profound.
Yeah.
We need to be very thoughtful about how this knowledge is applied
Right.
and make sure that it's used responsibly and ethically.
I'm also thinking about the idea of individuality.
Yeah.
If our brains are wired according to this blueprint,
Right?
does that mean our personalities are predetermined? Like, what does that mean for free will?
That's a big question.
This is raising some big philosophical questions.
It's true. This research touches on some fundamental questions.
Yeah.
About what it means to be human.
Right.
I think it's important to remember that while genes provide a framework,
Okay.
they don't tell the whole story.
Right.
Our experiences, our environment, our interactions with the world, all of these things shape our brains,
Right.
and they contribute to who we are.
So it's not just nature, it's nurtured too.
It's a complex interplay
Yeah.
of both.
Okay.
This research gives us a deeper understanding
Yeah.
of the biological foundations of our brains.
Right.
But it doesn't negate the importance of our individual experiences and choices.
Okay, so we've talked about the benefits,
Mm-hmm.
the ethical considerations.
Right?
But where do we go from here?
Right.
What are the next steps in this research?
Well, this study is really just the beginning.
Okay.
There's still so much we don't know about how this blueprint actually works.
Like what?
For example, we need to understand how environmental factors
Right.
interact with this genetic framework to shape individual brain development.
Okay.
And we need to explore how these findings can be translated into effective therapies
Right.
and interventions for brain disorders.
It sounds like there's a whole world of research ahead.
Absolutely. And the potential to transform our understanding of the brain and everything it does.
Yeah.
This research has opened up a new frontier.
Yeah.
The possibilities are mind-boggling. It's an exciting time to be involved in brain science.
Yeah, it really is amazing to think about all the potential benefits, you know?
It is.
But it's also a little daunting when you think about what could go wrong.
Right. It really does raise some profound questions.
Yeah, both scientific and ethical.
Absolutely.
But even with those big questions, looming out there,
Yeah.
I have to say this has been one of the most fascinating deep dives.
It really has.
So much to think about.
We learned that our genes actually lay out this kind of invisible blueprint.
For how our brains are wired.
Yeah.
Forming trillions of connections.
Incredible.
And we explored those 3 mind-boggling axes of brain organization.
Right.
Dorsal ventral, anterior posterior,
Yeah.
medial lateral,
The 3 axes.
and discovered how they all fit together to create what they call
It's a mouthful.
the global connectivity topology.
Yeah, global connectivity topology.
And we only scratched the surface of what all this could mean.
Right, it's just the beginning.
For things like personalized medicine, brain-computer interfaces, diagnosing neurological disorders,
Right.
and even performing safer neurosurgery.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Who knew genes were such skilled architects?
It really is remarkable.
I'm particularly intrigued by the idea that even though our genes create this blueprint, they don't tell the whole story.
It's true.
It's that nature versus nurture debate again, right?
Exactly. It's always the interplay
Yeah.
between the two.
So it's not just about the genes we inherit, but also about how we live our lives.
Absolutely.
The choices we make,
Yeah.
the things we learn.
It all shapes who we are.
It's empowering to think about how much agency we have
It is.
in shaping who we become.
It's not just predetermined.
Yeah.
There's so much we can do.
And this research also highlights how much we still don't know about the brain.
It's true. It's a constant source of wonder
It is. It really is.
and discovery.
Speaking of discovery,
Yeah.
I'm sure our listeners are eager to learn more about this groundbreaking research.
I would definitely encourage everyone to check out the full article
Yeah,
on that BRICS website.
that's right. And the link to that article is in the show notes.
You got it.
So you can dive in and explore all the intricacies of this.
Yeah, it's a great read.
Incredible discovery. And while you're reading, take some time to ponder the questions we've raised today.
Right. Think about the implications.
What do you think about the potential benefits and the ethical considerations?
Yeah. How this knowledge might shape the future.
How do you see this knowledge shaping the future of brain science and medicine?
What does it mean to be human?
What does it all mean for our understanding of what it means to be human?
Big questions.
This is just the beginning of an incredible journey
Absolutely.
of discovery, and we can't wait to see what the future holds.
Did make it exciting.
Until next time, keep those brains buzzing.
Keep thinking.
And thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.